Skincare today feel overwhelming. 10-step routines, miracle ingredients, and endless products that's claiming to be the ones. What if there was a way to cut through the noise and strip back the clutter? Focus on what truly works. That's what sparked London Beauty, a brand built on simplicity, science, and self care. And today, in the Beyond the Boardroom series, I am with Sarah Foxwell, and we are here to learn how she turned the five products into a very bold mission. To hear how she turned the five products into a bold mission and how she has navigated leadership, challenges, and making an impact. Today, welcome to the Beyond the Boardroom series. I am your host, Rinki. I'm a cosmetic scientist, beauty insider, and I'm here to talk about another wonderful woman leader in our industry. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rinki.
So we're gonna deep dive into understand every founder have a moment when the idea goes beyond big from your brain to your thought calling. For you, I understand this was not just adding another product to the crowded industry. It was about changing the conversation completely. So take us back when what was the very first moment you thought that it is the time for London Beauty to be born. What was your thought in mind?
I think I've always been passionate, particularly about skincare for many years. I've been in the industry 27 years now, and I adore it. I love what I do. I'm a firm believer in do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, although the hours are very long, particularly when it's your own company. But I think COVID really hit home with me. And we were on Instagram and a lot of the social media channels. And I had a lot of mothers, I had a lot of children reaching out to me, asking me to help them with specific needs, problems with skin, with hair. People really didn't understand the relationship actually with your scalp and your skin, hence I call skinification, and also the confusion of the requirement to have so many products in your bathroom. And whilst I love products, I'm always testing, particularly my competitors. I don't see them as my competitors. They inspire me. I have many brands that I admire and that I use, as you've seen in my bathroom, Rinki, that I love. But I wanted to do something that was simplified, that was problem solving, and that could reach and past barriers of gender, or skin types, um, and age. So what we learned during COVID is that a lot of the problems, particularly for your skin and hair, that I in my approaching 50 age would be going through, actually are now affecting the teens and the 20 somethings and the 30 somethings. So skincare has really evolved and it's really changed.
That is so true. It is like it's definitely also it's more targeted solutions now
Absolutely,
versus
exactly.
what it was when I was a teen. Nobody told me not everything is okay for you. There was no target specific skincare
Yeah.
for me. I pretty much used what's available in the market, but I'm glad the education has evolved around skincare.
Well, I think the consumer is more educated as well. When we talk about, the key ingredients, the gold standards of retinol and the collagens, I think everybody's fully aware of what they are. And I think that's a wonderful thing. Education is power. So I really wanted to put something together that was affordable, that was transparent in both its message and its meaning, but that I wasn't targeting specific needs. So, for example, I had a customer come to me, very young, early teens, and they didn't understand why they had to have one cleanser for this and one cleanser for that, and then the difference between the day and night cream. So it was a really interesting and healthy conversation that I was happy to have, and very valuable for me to learn from. And so I think simplifying your skincare routine is so important, because I think in the busy lives that we lead these days, we don't have the time in our life anymore, whether that be in the morning or in the evening. And what you don't want is things to be forgotten. Do the staples such as get lots of sleep, drink lots of water, change your pillowcase at night is always advice that I give people, particularly when you're suffering skin conditions. Always change your pillowcase at night, because all the oils, particularly from your hair, are going to be sitting on the pillowcase. But it was simple things like that. And then I thought to myself, okay, You need a cleanser, you need a day cream, you need a night cream, or you need an eye cream. Not everyone believes that. They think it's a marketing fad and a trend. But the area around your eye loses hydration twice as quickly as anywhere else on your face.
Interesting.
Which is, again, something that's not commonly known or talked about. People see it as just an extra, as an add-on, but it's actually very important. And then I'm a big fan of Korean. In terms of the skincare, I love the culture, everything about it. I've learned an awful lot there. And I love the serum to seal. What I am worried about is the amount of serums that are out there. Do I need this serum because I've got this problem? Do I need this serum because I've got that problem? So I wanted to have a 5-in-1, if you will.
Okay.
And the 5-step capsule collection was born. I'm a Londoner, so London beauty.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. For my sins, I love my hometown. I was born and bred until I moved out to the suburbs. Thank you for coming to see me today here.
Lovely.
And yes, so it was very simple, really. But I'm hoping very much it was born out of a need. So it was listening to the consumer over many years, different ages, different backgrounds, and what they needed, and hopefully we found a way to provide it at a commercially price pointed way. I hate the word cheap, but it's affordable to all. And as I said, I wanted something that would be packed full of actives, packed full of performance indicators, that would be suitable for all of our skins.
Perfect. No, that's definitely sounds very powerful. And like, I am a skincare maximalist myself. I do use a lot of skincare. I think the guilt is charged. But I do understand it's like when you do not have a lot of time. Like for me, the morning is the biggest struggle. My night skincare routine is very elaborate. I do use a lot of product purely because I live and breathe beauty, literally. But I do understand for people who does not have the time bandwidth, I think it's a very simple step for like people who wants like, okay, I don't need to think like XYZ, do I use this for this problem? I think it's a one step go to. So I think like that's really, really wonderful. And like I think like the capsule collection, like I personally have tried each of the products, so I can speak for myself. So it's like they're very clinically driven with good clinically proven ingredients. So I'm like very happy with the collection. So brands and people out there who, if you have not tried, please just give products a try. I'm pretty sure you definitely fall in love with. Next question. When you first started, did people really understand your vision, or did you feel skepticism, or you were challenged for the way you want to do things? What was your experience as a founder?
I think I'm always challenged because I invite it. I love to be challenged. It either reconfirms what you originally thought, or you learn something new, and maybe you change tactic. But I always try in my approach to be quite humble, and I really gather information, and I actively seek people's opinions and feedback. I do believe it makes you stronger. So I spoke to a lot of retailer friends and retailer partners, and a lot of consumers, just to make sure that there wasn't arrogance behind the range. I didn't want another range for the sake of a range. As we all know, skincare is a hugely populated space in beauty at the moment.
100%.
And we I needed to make sure that we were doing something different. Are we adding value? Were our USPs strong enough? So after much feedback, and this was in thinking for at least 2 or 3 years, in development for 18 months before we actually launched. Yes, it was slightly longer than planned. As with all production, you do hit challenges.
Oh yeah.
Which we navigated through. I call them challenges. I'm learning to use that word a lot.
Well, like we live in the world of challenges. Like you can have the best CPA in the world, and like things still will hit you out of nowhere.
Of course. And they can be, external factors in your environment and also internal factors. You have to allow buffers, particularly in manufacture, whether it be a machine breaking, delays on packaging, it could be anything. But it was good because it really allowed me the time that I needed to really assess the lineup, assess the ingredients. I was very, very grateful to work with some incredible formulators. So whilst these are my ideas, they were vetted. That's the biggest compliment that I can give to my partner Oriane. I thought the factory were incredible. I love working with the research and development team there in the lab. Isa, Paulina, Natalia, give all the girls a shout out. Were amazing putting the range together. And when we sat down, the principles that I really wanted to home in on is I wanted a 5-step solution,
Okay.
and a problem-solving range, and that's literally where we started. Cost structure was very, very important. 70% of our cost of goods actually went into the formulation.
Amazing.
So packaging always is secondary to me. I think the most important thing with your packaging is to stay always sustainable as possible.
Yeah.
And recyclable. Where we can, we use 30% PCP, so it's recyclable.
Yeah.
And made from recycled packaging. But at the same time, the principles, as I said, it's all built around the formulation. And then what was really key was the ingredient story.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the ingredient, and like if anybody have not tried the product, like I love how you have pentavitine and AC vegetable collagen and calmandarine. It's like I am an ingredient storyteller. I actually have worked with all of the major raw material manufacturer in the world, and like I love talking to the supplier, understanding the clinicals behind. And I always feel, and the one of the very reason I started the channel, I feel we celebrate our products, we do not celebrate our ingredients enough. And I think like that's the whole point of starting Inky with Rinki, to celebrate the heroes in the back end that makes the product wonderful to work on your skin. And I love that your brand celebrates them front of pack.
Well, that's a big shout out to my creative team. So to Chris and Weston, who are based in Cape Town in South Africa, when we put the brand together, it is very much a family. We're a small team, but a very strong team, multicultural. We are from every part of the globe. But when we looked at the creative aspect, what was really important, and for all you designers out there, you will know that I probably drove Chris nuts because there was so much messaging that I needed to be on the packaging. And to get that to look beautiful and easy on the eye, because it's so important that whilst you're being transparent, it's easily understandable. It really was no mean feat, and I was thrilled, absolutely thrilled with the work that the team did with me on that. And as I said, to me, it's all about the ingredients, Rinki. I think when you formulate a product, it's got to do what it says in the tin, essentially.
100%. And like my whole entire career across various different brands, whether it's private label or whether it's the biggest corporate brand on earth, it's like I've always worked in R&D. And I think the biggest thing is like as a formulator, we are not always able to articulate the best of the technologies to be understandable to the wider audience. I think industry is evolving at the moment. I think like we don't need to hide behind the simplifying term. I think currently the industry demands transparencies. The consumer is willing to learn more, so you can put very strong technology yet be very comfortable talking about it. So I love when you like call out 2% calmandarine on your on your beautiful multifunctional serum, to hear it out like loud. I personally have met the Mibble team in 2023 in cosmetics, and I was there when the like won the gold award. If anyone does not know, Can Mandarin actually won gold award in the innovation zone category in 2023. So I like met the team, I've like heard it firsthand, and I have been praying to the god. It's like, please, there are some brand, please put this ingredient in the product, and you did.
Well, it's crazy. I mean, I that was actually on a trip to Israel that I learned about this, and it's actually from Greece.
Yes,
it's taken
Chios mandarins. Yes,
absolutely, and it was originally used in fragrance.
it's upcycled actually.
Absolutely, exactly. So it's very sustainable. But but while everyone's talking about all the goodness in the azelaic acid and things, I didn't want to. 1 in 10 people in the UK are suffering with rosacea.
Yes.
And that's across the board. 1 in 6 are suffering with acne blemishes of some form. So I wanted something that would tick all of these boxes. I'm a lady of a certain age, so you can imagine what I'm battling.
You're beautiful.
Oh, no, very, very much not. But thank you. But yes, the flash of red does appear every now and then. But again, lots of children are suffering, with certain skin conditions. But
yes,
I wanted
100%.
I wanted something that wasn't going to be, that was suitable for sensitive skin, put it that way, and something more natural. And I met a wonderful formulator chemist on my last trip to Israel on the back of Morocco, which is where I had a lot of my ingredients have come from as well. And Gali actually introduced me to this wonderful ingredient. So I've known about this for about 5 or 6 years. And then I came across the company that you just mentioned, who were amazing. That's the lovely thing about working with Orion, is that you do get to speak to the end suppliers as well. And I've been around, for quite a while, probably drove the team there nuts as well, because I knew the questions to ask.
Mabel is quite wonderful, honestly. Like, yeah, they do have a very wonderful team.
They do.
Amazing research team. I did meet them again in this year's in cosmetics, and they're like very versed with their paperwork in terms of
They
like
really
if you
are.
want to go to the nitty gritty.
But it's very much a partnership.
Yes.
And everyone who's on the journey with us, as I said, this is a family. We are a small team, even my accountants who are based between London and Poland. Everyone is committed, everyone is dedicated. We all understand our ethos. We don't want to be bigger than we actually are. I don't foresee the range growing hugely, because otherwise it would go against the brand principles of trying to bring simplicity and transparency as affordably to your bathroom cabinet as possible, and more importantly, to your hands. Putting products into people's hands is something that gives me great joy, and I love to share it. And as I said, I really hope I took on board everybody's feedback, opinions, and what they need. More importantly, I didn't just, we didn't want to go into this space, not giving something new. And I think when you're a small brand, we're not one of the big, beautiful Estee Lauders or the Unilevers with huge budgets. I would love to be one day, but that's not for us. So we have to be very resourceful with what we're doing.
Of course.
And I think when you're looking at your ingredient story there, it's very important to, when you're introducing something new, also have a staple that people do already understand. So have something to entice them in. So with the ingredients, what we try to do, if I may, Rinki,
Yes.
I'll just pick out the cleanser as a good example. So the salicylic acid, at 2%. What we have added new is polystop at 1%. Pentavitin, which you've already talked about. Thank you very much for that. So environmental factors are huge in skincare.
100%. And like Polystop is something like I think Solabia, and like I have formulated so many of my formulas with Polystop because I think a lot of people does not know Polystop is able to give protection onto like 3 kinds of pollution. And like especially the internal indoor pollution, which nobody considers. We when we think pollution, we only think outdoor.
Absolutely, all of the stresses that hit our face every day, and equally they are happening in your home before you've even left the house. And that's exactly that. A lot of people don't know about that. But what we needed to do as well was to marry and make sure we're pairing all of the ingredients. A lot of people think the salicylic acid will strip your skin, and it really doesn't. It actually is it's almost oil-based. It works very well with the oils within your skin.
100%. It's an oil-soluble ingredient. It's a BHA. I cannot remember maybe in the past 7 years having one single day without salicylic acid. It comes surprising, but like I have a quite oily combination skin. I can't live without salicylic acid. It's my like go-to.
Absolutely, and me too. And then equally, if you're pairing it with the natural vitamin E, the vitamin C, the rosehip seed oil, as well as the pentavitin, that as you mentioned, I mean, pentavitin on its own gives you 72 hours of hydration.
Yes, it does.
So when you're marrying those beautiful ingredients together, it creates quite a beautiful story. And hence, we are dermatologically tested, all of our products, but they are suitable for all skin types, including sensitive skin. So that's a myth buster. What we try to do is break the boundaries in terms of myth versus fact. And that's very much how we focus the range on. So the cleanser is a good example. It's packed full of goodies. And does it stand up to the test? I personally believe it does. I've had some wonderful feedback on the brand from around the globe, which is wonderful, including people who are even using it. My business partner, Sam, so we're 2 female founders. Her son has children's acne on his back and on his neck, early teen. So she's got one of the children, one of her sons using it on his face. Fantastic. And her oldest son is using it on his back, and it's even helping
back nails, yes.
So, which is a big thing, particularly for young rugby playing lads.
Yes.
So we're very proud, but we've tried to make sure that every product packs a punch. And it really does do what it says on the tin. And as I said, most importantly, and Isa and I talked about this a lot, I wanted to have a hero and anchor to the range. And to me, your most important product, your most important part of your skincare routine is not actually the moisturizing at the end, it's cleaning your face.
It is so important. I think overall industry wise, and I see for like many women, especially in their mid 30s or later in the life, they do focus on the serums and the leave-ons.
Yeah.
But rinse off is very underplayed. That's what I believe. But until you have a clean skin, all those goodness of the serums are not working. So you need a clean canvas for the painting to come through.
Absolutely, beautifully put. Absolutely, 100%. So that was really our anchor, and everything else is the glue, if you will, to the range. And you're right. You start with a blank canvas. You must clean. Hence, as I said, I always go back to the advice I give everybody, particularly when you're having breakout, when you're suffering. Change your pillowcase every night. Drink lots of water. Be careful and mindful of what you're putting in your hair. It's all sinking into there. But I wanted a cleanser that you could use in the day and in the evening that could be problem solving, that's also going to really help you with all the distresses, in our over polluted world that we're facing these days, that will help you with blemish control, that does take off makeup, even my tough mascara that I adore, that I've used for years, and I won't change from. And I think hopefully, and as I said, the feedback, has been good. We're also very reasonably priced. Given, Rinki, you'll know this far better than me, the ingredients we've gone for are not cheap.
They are not, and like that actually leads to my next question very very wonderfully. So basically majority of the brands now, they come up, like especially when they're launching, they come up with bold, 10 units, 30 shades. It's like, and you have chosen a simple 5-step routine, like 5 products, 5 minutes, and you're done. So that's a very bold mission. Like,
That's exactly
what's the
it.
thought behind
5
this?
products in 5 minutes. Thank
So
you.
what's
Gosh,
the
you're better than
point?
me. Please sell the range for me. There you go.
Sometime you don't know. So it's like, what's the thought? It's like, why did you bring, like, 5 products and 5 minutes and you're done? Like, what is this bold mission about? Like, what was your thought behind?
It's for everybody. It's from the child before they go to school in the morning. It's for the busy mother who's trying to get the kids ready, or maybe it's the father trying to get the kids ready. Because don't forget, I think the grooming market has been badly overlooked for many, many years. A lot of people have tried. Do I believe that you need to have different skincare for different genders? No, I don't. We have the same problems and the same concerns. We just have different skin types. And women have different skin types and men have different skin types. So it is suitable for all. But what I really wanted, whether you're the busy working mother or father, whether you're the busy active child, your hormones are going crazy at any age, I wanted something that could hit everybody. And also, a part of the market that I think does get overlooked is the plus 55 category.
Yes, 100%. I think every brand, and like I'm not like taking it telling it from like a negative angle. I think like with the playfulness of the social media, every brand is focusing to Gen Alpha and Gen Z, but your biggest crowd is your Gen X. You can never forget them.
Absolutely, and they're still the biggest beauty spenders. But the thing is, we all as humans deserve to be looked after. And when you see that there are certain parts of the community and parts of the age groups out there that aren't being listened to and aren't being heard and maybe not being given a face and a voice, I think they're the really important people to target. And what's really key, we've launched with a wonderful store group, one of the oldest store groups in the country, Morley's group.
Lovely.
They have been incredible. But what they've really helped with is us communicating our message. They love the story, they love where we started from and our collective mission. But what they've really, really done beautifully is allow us to merchandise and tell our story in store. So that when you go, they've heroed each of the products.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Well, the beauty of having only 5 products, which I did worry about in the early days, because I suddenly thought, well, how am I going to fill a shelf? How am I going to command what all these beautiful big brands command? And the buying team, Alice and Darren, namely at Morley's, were amazing. And they said, let's hero them. And then you can have your shelf talkers. And it talks, and we're very much about myth versus fact.
Okay.
So you've got that immediate piece of education at your theatre at store level. And the feedback that I've had from the consultants to the store managers has been wonderful. And they have fully embraced our concept and they understand it. And what's lovely is the diversity of the mix of the people and the consumers that we're seeing that are taking interest in the brand. And as I said, we are all inclusive. It's for everybody. We are targeting problems, not people.
Perfect. I really love that. Like, I love that line. You're targeting problem, not people, because like we all have skin. Skin type varies. So is our Fitzpatrick scale. So is our ethnicity. But we are people, and our problems are unified.
Absolutely. And as I said, I hope, and Rinki, with your incredible background, you'll know far better than me. But when we look at each of the products and we break it down, as I said, they are all capable of delivering 5 different problems from one product. And I think that's so important. So it is the story of 5, my special hand of 5. And that's what we designed, and that's what we hope is helping the people. And so we have the sunshine, we have the evening, the routines are covered. They are simplified to the point of application, certainly not in terms of what's within them. We really have, and equally you may see them change as we evolve, because I think that change is always good.
I think change is the biggest constant in life, right?
Absolutely.
Like you need to evolve, and
Yeah.
like sometime it's like I have developed so many formulas in my life, and sometimes I feel like at a certain point you have to let go. Like you can always want to make it perfect, but if you procrastinate on like no, maybe a little better, and then you never launch. So at a certain point you have to launch, then listen to your consumers, listen to the feedback, and improvise. I think that's the best way to do.
It's the most important lesson. It really is. And listening is so, so important. And then equally, if you don't act on it, then shame on you, really. And that's what I always say to myself. So we had wonderful feedback from multiple age groups, and also on the brand design. I probably overshare to a point, but I love feedback. I love to hear. It's not noise to me. It's always an opportunity to learn and to improve. And evolution, as you said, is part of every day. We all need to evolve. So if there is a new powerful ingredient out there that we can marry and we can include into our story, I'm always willing to listen, always willing to improve. And equally, if people have suggestions on what they'd like to see, I actively encourage everyone on our Instagram. Is there anything missing? What else would you like to see? I don't want to step out of the, of my factor of 5. And I do that from an affordability and a time management.
From a budget point of view.
Absolutely. But it's also when you're budgeting, it's not just, in your purse, in your pocket, it's your time.
Yeah.
Time is valuable. And particularly if you're a working parent, to try and fit everything in. And equally, if you have a range of products that you and your children can share and use together, I'm taking less space up in your bathroom.
Oh well, you should come to my bathroom. It's like it's full with yeah. As I said, like I'm a
There's room for plenty, isn't there? There's room for plenty.
Yeah, I'm a skincare maximalist purely because I think I love surrounding and like I love trying out new products. Do I break my skin in the process? Yes. Like right now, if you look at my face, I have like so many acnes because I was trying out a new product. I'll not like name a brand.
Some of the cleanser.
I definitely would love that, and like especially for the ingredients, and like think of pentavitamin. I don't know, a lot of people doesn't know it's one of the very few bioactives that is actually also being tested in a rinse off format, and that's what makes it unique. So that's what I love about the cleanser, because there are too many bioactives in the ocean of bioactives to choose from, but what do you put in a rinse off format that works? So it's like pentavitamin like clicks that, and so is Polystop. So like I can see both. So yeah, that's a very happy place for me for the cleanser. So I have like a lot of acne at the moment which are live on my skin, which I have to fix, but I promise to everyone I will fix it.
Your beautiful skin.
Thank you.
We all have breakouts. It's how we manage them. And it's stress indicators as well. Really,
Yeah.
and also when you're trying and testing a lot of products,
yeah,
it can play havoc with your skin.
It does, and like I'm very aware of the fact. So it's like, I know it's like it's a part of being who I am. So it's like I don't blame it, but I also know how to fix it. So
Yeah.
I'll eventually fix it.
You can't see. You can't see. Honestly, you look beautiful.
Thank you.
So yes, and I think really, so in our 5-step routine, we've talked an awful lot about the ingredients. See this range evolving. Yes, I do, but do I want to add to it? I don't want to go against the principles that we have, and I'm a firm believer in sticking with your, the morals that you start with. And I want us to stay true to who we are. And our story and our concept is to be simple at the point of delivery, and for your pocket and for your time. We value all of those things greatly. But as I said, I'm open to feedback always. You've also shared some wonderful feedback with me, Rinki, and I appreciate your guidance so much. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's like I think like the one thing, let's tell it like explicitly mention for our audience, like with the world that is right now, we live in the world of social media. We can't avoid it. Like we are doing this podcast, which will be in the YouTube, and like I was very surprised when I started my journey 10 months ago, and like I was telling to my family, okay, I want to talk scientific content. I want to talk the real truth behind the beauty, and I want to show the layers, that how many steps it goes before the products come alive. I want to demystify the world, because we all see beautiful shelves, beautiful products, but there's a lot goes behind, and I want to I want to bring that story alive. But who will listen to me? But people has listened to me, really, and like the audience has grown, the people have given feedback, so I'm extremely privileged to find that place in people's heart. And science-backed skincare is something we hear all the time now. Every possible other brand is doing, but I know for you it's not just the buzzword. Why it is important to build a brand on data and proven results, because and how does it shape your core aesthetics or the core value to the capsule collection you have done?
So when we created the brand, obviously when you're buying something, whether it be an item of clothing, whether it be skincare or a new car, you're buying it on the aesthetic look and appeal. And I get that and I understand it, and that's why the color story is so important to me, and their relationship to the ingredients in which they hold. But most importantly, the messaging is all backed up with the science.
Okay.
Your purchasing may be based on look or a recommendation, but you're going to go back because it works.
100%.
And that's
100%.
Performance for me is paramount. Hence, I told you the ratio that we use, which is 70% on the formulation. So important. So whilst I look after and I care and I call us Earth Positive wherever possible in terms of sustainable packaging, your formulation has got to stand up. And we live in a very demanding world. We needed a range that would equip for 2025. We are facing more different. When I first launched skincare, and I was working with some beautiful French brands many years ago, what we're facing today is very different to what we were facing 25 years ago. So it needs to be relevant for the room, for the story, and for now. And to me, that was a barrier, and hence the names as well. So Barrier Rescue is our cleanser. So your face is a barrier to the world, and it's all about the things that are sort of perpetrating it, if you will. And we want to be your line of defense. And you defend with science. You educate with science, and it's a very powerful tool.
And I love that. And because on my channel, Inky with Rinki, if anybody does not know me, I'm a cosmetic scientist, I'm a formulator, I'm an ingredient nerd, and I talk the science behind the beauty. So this podcast is all about demystifying the world of beauty and personal care, and to talk about with the brands and the people who have done it, who have brought really amazing products to the market. They have done the journey, and to share the journey with you. If it inspires you, if you're enjoying this conversation, if you're vibing with the approach, please give a like, share it with a friend or family who might enjoy the talk and feel this conversation inspiring, or maybe learn something out of it. So that's what we are all doing this. And I have Sarah Foxwell from London Beauty, co-founder, CEO, with me, and we are deep diving into the world of beauty and skincare. So, Sarah, thank you so much for doing this with me. And that guides me over to the next question. So, you talked about color pattern. It's like looking at your range, will you be able to elaborate, like, what inspired you to choose the color that you have chosen?
So, again, that was a collaboration with my wonderful creative team. I wanted the colours to have a relationship to the ingredients that they have, to the products that they actually are. So the blue, we've gone for the cleanser. And to me,
Okay.
it's always the ocean, but it's also representative of most of the ingredients within it. The yellow is for sunshine, it's day. The blue is for evening, it's nighttime. The green is to really pull out the mushroom. And the orange is for the calm mandarin. Calm mandarin is very much an ingredient that, as you rightly pointed out earlier, Rinki, really hasn't been used very much.
Yeah.
If at all, actually.
I think it's the first brand I have spotted to put it on the front of pack. There may be brands out there which has put it into their as a workhorse ingredient or have a different blend of a trade name out of them.
But it's a beautiful ingredient.
I love it.
For sensitive skin, and as you said, when the world is talking about the azelaic acids and a lot of the other acids, to me it was a more natural option. So yeah, colour is very important, and not just that. We don't just want to be online. So yes, of course, we're embracing TikTok, we're embracing the Amazons and all of the normal retail channels. We really, it's very much important. I talked about Morley's Store Group earlier, to be in store, because you always want to go in and touch and feel. Even in the
I do like that, and like honestly, majority of the brands now are starting with the DTC approach. There's nothing wrong with that. I think you can really have a highest number of market penetration. There's nothing like going to a store, picking up the product, and feeling it.
Conversation with a
100%.
But and therefore, I think to command your space in store, the color pops for me. It's got to be, that's probably the fun element for us. We take ourselves seriously in terms of the science, the sexy science, but there's got to be fun and theatre created at store. And equally, in your bathroom, you want it to look, glamorous, and you want it to look appealing. But as I said, equally for anyone who's new to skincare, if you can have the story, collagen, the retinol in the evening, these are all, I think over many years, we're all used to knowing that, you use collagen during the day, you're using your retinol at night. But equally, it's a story that I think kind of jumps out at you. And we just wanted to tell it as simply as possible, and have products that you can also easily identify in a very beautifully busy beauty hall. Which, as we know, I think in some of the stores, I counted sort of between 200 or 300 serums, so to create standouts in that huge, busy, industrious crowd is not easy.
It is definitely not easy. So it's like I'm like quite mesmerized how you have broken to the brick and mortar channel, because I think we live in England, and for majority of the European countries as well as in Asia, I think retail still like one of the skeleton of our industry. I think you can win big with DTC. There's nothing wrong, but like the customer acquisition cost to like getting an online customer onboarded with you, driving traffic, is still quite high, and it's difficult to build a profitable business from day one without burning cash. And which is not the cat, which is a lot of people do not understand how much it goes like in the behind. But it is better. It is when you go in the brick and mortar approach, it is much easier that way. So tell me how you have launched maybe a few months now. So
yeah, we are 3 months young.
So it's an infant, I would say.
We are baby stages at the moment. Our little acorn is growing, but I have to be honest, I've had the privilege of working with many retail partners, in every corner of our beautiful globe. The Morley's team, I really cannot give them a big shout out, have been absolutely wonderful. And we also have a close affinity, Rinki, if you wouldn't mind if I touch on, in terms of our charitable backing.
Oh wow, yeah, let's hear that.
One of the really important things for us is that we want to give back. So every our 5-point plan, one of the really important parts for us is to share and to give back where we can. So we are trying to create awareness. Now this is Weston and Chris's genius. in creating the QR code. But you'll also see on the packaging, you'll see this beautiful little blue heart that carries a dagger.
Yeah.
That symbol is Charlie's Promise, which is a really important charity that we are supporting and dedicating our time, and we will be dedicating sales to as we grow. Martin and I go way back. We went to college together.
Oh.
So we've known each other for about 30 years now. And very sadly, and I'll tell you very quickly if that's all right, if I may,
Yeah.
please, Rinki. Martin's little boy, Charlie, was sadly murdered.
Oh,
Stabbed
so
to death
sorry to
at a
hear.
party in a very beautiful, affluent part of the country, down in Horsham. So it's the knife crime epidemic is growing daily.
It's scary.
Weekly. It is very scary. And I think when it's coming into people's home, people, when it comes out of the big main cities, from the Londons and the Birminghams and the Manchester, not that it should be in any of those cities, you know, people are really starting to be woken up by it. And I think obviously it touched me personally because I knew Charlie. Obviously, I knew his father an awful lot, a lot better, but the whole family have really battled. And what Martin's tried to do, and Tara, his beautiful wife, is turn their grief into an educational tool. Martin has now educated over 15, I believe it's around 15,000 students. He's also been into prisons and kept trying to treat the problem. But if we can get there before then,
100%.
we can educate. Philosophy behind Charlie's Promise. Martin made his son, as he lay dying, a promise that that everybody would know Charlie's name, and that he would try to save as many children in Charlie's honour and in Charlie's name as possible. And that is the premise of Charlie's Promise. So, as I said, Martin and the family have been travelling up and down the country. They have been invited abroad as well. So I think they're going to take Charlie's Promise abroad to educate children, to listen to them, to share their fears, to ask what their fears are, to help them. They talk about a beautiful charity called Fearless that I don't think a lot of people know. That the phone number that you can contact, Fearless, that you can type into your phone if you want to report knife crime anonymously. Charlie was basically protecting two young girls at a party. She was 15 years old and being harassed. And she asked Charlie and his friends for some help, and Charlie went to help. And unfortunately, Charlie lost his life because he chose to help somebody. I don't want to
That
be
is
part.
atrocious.
Well, I don't want to be part of a world where we don't help each other anymore. You know, that's not the values that I grew up with. That's not the values that I think we want to live with. And so, what Martin is doing in his family is so, so important. To add Charlie's Promise onto our merchandising so that there is a wonderful QR code on each of the products and also onto our merchandising. Grateful to the team, and when I say the team, I don't just mean the head office team. I mean all the stores and all the consultants. They've been an absolute joy to work with, and the positioning they've given us in store is phenomenal. You know, particularly when it's you know, your own little acorn, it makes me very proud to see the brand there. But it makes me incredibly humbled that they've allowed us to tell and share Charlie's story.
That's definitely is like a very, very, very big impact. I think like it's like you are building a brand not only to serve people to the wider crowd, you're also giving back to the community, and
Yes.
that's what I really, really love. And I think it's so important to give back to the community because we can't have the world we live in until we believe in the harmony and the community.
Absolutely. And as I said, when you go back to listening and to hearing and relevance, you've got to be relevant. This is what's affecting our society today and our children and the next generation. So, you know, it made perfect sense for me to support my friend, to support a wonderful cause, a sad cause that, you know, that we shouldn't be supporting, but to bring education and awareness to something that is affecting our children and the future generations of children. And it's all about values, and ownership, and taking responsibility. And so, yes, that's a very important part of the story that we're trying to get across. And as I said, I understand people are scared. I understand people don't want to always have this conversation. And that must be listened to as well. But that is unfortunately the world we are living in. And I think if we can move past that and if we can bring it in to different spaces and have that conversation, educate our children, I think the world will be a better place. And I'm so grateful to Martin and the family for what they're doing. For my niece and nephew, for my friends' children, it really does mean an awful lot.
Yes, that is such a wonderful note. And I would urge all the audience, if you're listening, like if you can go and support the cause, I think that would be really lovely. And like, thank you so much for like sharing the story. I think it's very important to understand everything that we are living in. Like now over to my next question, and I'm gonna like change the subject completely to the woman leader as you are. You definitely has navigated your career to various strong roles, even like C-suite roles for like some of the big brands in the industry now. And like, how do you see yourself of like over the years as you have navigated the career to the woman leader you are? Is like, what's your advice to the young girls who are in schools? What they should do in their life, and what message you have for them?
Dream big, which is also something we talked about earlier, Rinki, when we were sharing each other's dreams. I think you've got to aim high in life. Surround yourself with good people.
100%.
This most important, most important. I think, one of the biggest lessons that I learned, funny enough, after many years of having incredible mentors, I was very blessed to be given some wonderful roles and those opportunities by incredible people. Housed at the fragrance factory when I first started, and we were looking after brands like Burberry. They were called Burberry's in those days.
Wow.
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yes, it was Burberry's then. And we had about 20-25 brands that we were distributing before we became a manufacturer. To Marc Antoine at Selected Beauty, to working with Julian and Gregory at Mesa. They are a hugely successful manufacturer now. I kind of went 360 in my experience. I started from an advertising and marketing background. Then I went into distribution. And then I literally went factory based and wanted to understand how we make these beautiful products that we're selling. And
That's where the magic lies.
it is. It is.
Until you see it, you don't know it.
And it's incredible. I've made products all over the world, and I think travel as much as you can. I didn't get to travel when I was younger. I left university and went straight into work because I had to. So, what I do for a living has enabled me to see this beautiful globe. And I learned so much, whether it be from different cultures, different countries, the resourcing of the ingredients. It's powerful. And as I said, we have a very eclectic, a global, as we call it, team. We're from all over the place. But my biggest advice is always surround yourself with good people. Listen, it's so important. And as I said, I talked about some of my mentors, from yesterday. But what was really interesting is that I always idolized and looked up to these people. And when you become a CEO, you suddenly realize that that's not the most important person in the room. You're the least. Your job is to listen and to navigate.
Very wonderfully put.
And to take everyone on this journey with you, it's a very special thing. I think this is born out of, I won't lie, there's some pain, sweat, and tears that have gone into this.
Of course.
But it's born out of love. And I'm so grateful to those that have been on this journey with me. And I think, a successful lady, in her latter years. Not quite, not yet. I hope to be one day. But the successes that I have enjoyed and I've had, I will always attribute to the people that are around me. They lift me up. They make me better. They improve me. And I'm very grateful to them. And whether that be Matic and Barter in my wonderful accounts team, whether that be Chris and Weston in my creative team, we're very small. That's us. Whether it be my fabulous warehouse in Manchester at Trafford Park, MSL, got to give the boys a shout out because we have been really up against it with some of our international orders. We're shipping to America at the moment. And the tariffs have been interesting to navigate through.
I would say. I think it has thrown a lot of brands off the carb, suddenly had a huge impact on cost of goods profitability, end margin, contribution margin, anything you say. It's have like totally changed the game.
Which again puts massive pressure. It's not easy to retail at the price points that we've gone out at. We start at $9.99 on our cleanser. The treatment products, which are normally the most expensive, we've reduced. So they're $12.99 each.
I'm quite surprised on the ingredients you have chosen, though.
Well, yes, it wasn't easy to do. And I'm hugely grateful to the factory, to Orion, the team, for helping me achieve those targets. and then the day and the night are at £14.99. So we are very commercial. You can have the entire range for £65. And you can one product you could spend on that amount. But as I said, it's so important that we're offering something that I will use, that you will use, that your children can use. And to go back to your original question, sorry, I've digressed a little bit there. In business, if
Sarah, tell me, as a woman founder, did you ever found gender bias? Did it ever like happened in your career? Did you think like industry judged you more as a woman leader? What are your struggles and how have you overcome it? I think it will really help our audience.
Yes, is the short answer. I think we've all struggled, whether it be culturally, by gender, by age, in the workplace. I think because I've been, so what am I, into my third decade of working, so I've seen quite a transition over the years of how things have changed. I think the workplace that we have today is much more nurturing, much kinder, full of empathy, which it certainly wasn't when I started. I think we used to use an old term, carry the bags, which you don't tend to hear an awful lot these days.
I haven't.
Yeah, so when you carry the bags, it's basically we live in a time where we would start at the bottom and work our way up, and I did that. I tried to do every single role. I had to do every single role if I wanted to be promoted, and be successful. And I think it was a really important life lesson for me. I don't think we live in a time where people are as patient to do that now. But I think the treatment that I had then versus now, yes, was quite different. Yes, there's been a lot of gender bias. I think, particularly being the only female voice in a room full of my wonderful male counterparts, has been hard at times. It's made me think a different way. You always have to think before you speak. Is probably the advice I would give my old self.
Okay.
Because it's not how you deliver it, it's how it's taken.
Of course.
And that's obviously, communication is huge. And as a woman, you have to be very careful that if you're assertive, you're not considered aggressive. And if you are full of empathy or kind, that you're not too emotional. And I think what I love about today is that all of those things are fully embraced and adored and are encouraged in the workforce, whereas they weren't in yesteryear. So yes, I have come up against certain difficulties and challenges, I would say. My advice to women in the workplace today is, do you have to work twice as hard? Yeah, you do. I'm not going to lie, you do.
I agree to that actually, but I don't mind proving myself. Yeah.
Absolutely. Your integrity and your self-worth will get you through. And I tell you, your sense of achievement and accomplishment when you've overcome those, particularly if you do it in the right way, is huge. And I'm very proud of those because, yeah, there have been testy times, there have been tears. It's not always easy, but I am proud. And I think if you can put your head on the pillow at night, thinking you've tried to at least attempt to do things in the right way, in the right manner. And if you haven't been successful, then don't give up. Go back. What is it? What is it the Buddhist says? Don't give up. Rest. Learn to rest. Learn
Very
to breathe.
well.
And then you go back to fight another day. I'd rather not use the word fight. I tend to be much more, it's all about challenges, and life is full of challenges. That's what shapes you. I think I've learned more from my mistakes or my misguided errors of judgment. Sometimes putting trust in the wrong hands or the wrong decisions, but whatever the choice, because there's always choice behind them. I hope I did it for the right reason. And as I said, the worst that can happen is a good lesson. Yeah, and it's so valuable, as I said, because they will stay with you, particularly when it's money, and particularly when it considers, your cash flow. They are certainly mistakes you don't want to repeat.
100%.
It's, when you are running a business, the difference in the challenges and the difference in terms of how you view it. It's why I always, as a marketeer, wanted to understand the sales function, because I wanted to be accountable for the penny that I was spending on advertising.
100%.
And that doesn't really exist anymore, certainly not in my world. We're a small brand. We don't have huge budgets like that, which is why I'm so grateful when people do want to give us airtime, even though I'm hugely nervous and this isn't my gig.
You're doing wonderful.
I hope I'm not letting you down, Rinki, because I'm by no means a professional like you. But as I said, it's all life skills. And when you're running a business, in terms of the challenges you will face, again, don't give up. Learn to navigate your way through them. And this is where my biggest advice always is to surround yourself with good people, people that will lift you up, and they will be there like your wings, and you to them. In this process, not just managing a cash flow, being 6 months delayed in production. I mean, that hurts, because we've had no revenue for 19 months.
Okay.
And now the revenue is coming in the last 2 or 3 months. So yeah, it's it stings a little, but you get through. Is running your own business being an entrepreneur for everyone? No, I think some of us in life love structure. Some of us need a lot of discipline, and we flourish from that environment. I like an environment where I can be creative, where I can share ideas
Beautiful.
in a forum that I think works. And as I said, I have a very eclectic team, wonderfully skilled, that all complement. So none of us really have the same skill sets, and I think that really helps, because every single day I learn something, particularly in this world of social media. Weston has been very kind to guide me through, and yourself, thank you, because it is new to me.
It's my pleasure.
And I thoroughly enjoy it. But yeah, thank you for the learning. But my advice to anyone is dream big. The bigger the better. And you know what? If you don't make it on the first try, then try again. Literally keep going back, because your sense of accomplishment and even your achievement in trying and getting through that day and dealing with things. But always remember, sometimes it's your action. It's not just always the words, but it's your actions, and they define you, and what you're trying to do. So just take a breath. I think that's really, if I could tell my 20-something self anything from this age, take a breath, rest, and then go back when you're in the right frame of mind. And so you're being true to yourself.
That's wonderfully put through. And remember, everyone, true transformation doesn't come from a shelf full of product. It actually comes from clarity and confidence. So
I look at my 27-year-old self when I was first made a director. Was I a good manager?
Did you made it to director at 27? That's impressive.
I was one of the youngest in the industry. My managing director told me, and particularly to get the dual title of sales and marketing director, I believe I earned it because I worked very hard. I had a great philosophy in terms of my work ethic. Do I think I was a good manager? Probably not. And I think, you're very, in your 20s, it's very different to in your 30s to then
100%.
40s. And your life lessons. If I could go back and tell my 20-year-old self, take a break, breathe, slow down.
Yeah.
Take it in. Nobody's going to die. If this order has to wait one more day and we need to do this. And I do think, I've learned probably more as a founder, on my own, particularly when you're wearing multiple hats, that sometimes banging your head against a brick wall for 8 to 10 hours, you are going to achieve nothing. Walk away.
100%.
Go
I
for a
always
walk.
believe that.
Clear your head. If you live by the ocean, my goodness, you're so lucky. I mean,
I wish to do that someday.
Well, me too.
Yeah, I live in London now, so not really much of an option. The closest I have Thames.
I'm in Hilly, Surrey, so what are we? Probably 45 minutes an hour. But we are surrounded by beautiful lakes and rivers and things, which is nice. I just find water so therapeutic. But if I could tell my younger self to go back and take a break, I think I would be more patient, because you don't have the patience and the tolerance that you need. I had the skill set, at 27, but I don't think I was quite developed as a human being. These days, I have developed what I call my COVID face. I smile through everything. Life is a challenge. And
it is.
But it's also a blessing. We're blessed every single day we are here. And every day is a lesson. Every day is a learning. When I was 27, to go back to your question about being a female owner, I was always the only woman, whether that be on the board or the team of directors.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to.
It was tough.
It was
tough. I was, as I said, when you're 27 years old and you're asked to manage, at that point, I had the sales and the marketing team, brilliant people. And we had incredible brands that took us all over the world from all different eras. And we were so blessed, to dip into fragrance, into skincare, into makeup. I learned the art of fragrance with the wonderful French. No one better than the French to teach you the art of fragrance. My makeup career took me to New York. My skincare, both French, all across Europe, some of Africa. So I'm very blessed. But when you're 27 years old and you're asked to manage a team of directors who are in their 50s and 60s, because generation, everyone dances around the point of age, and I don't. I think at the age I'm at now, I'm probably Marmite. You'll either like it or you won't like it. But I try to get to the point, and I try and break through the noise. Again, goes back to the range principles. They're very much my principles that I share in life. People say that they want to be a different person, the personal life to the professional life. You are one person, so I always think amplify who you want to be, in both. But at 27 years old, being asked to manage men, particularly, who were 30, 35 years older than me, with significant experience, was not easy. And then I had a team of field consultants. And one thing I will always say to anyone in our industry, start at the bottom, get into the stores, okay? Really learn from grassroots level. I love the fact that I was always encouraged to go and work in store and be a consumer. We sit in these ivory tower offices. I mean, I don't have an ivory tower, any far from it. You've seen my home, my colourful, wonderful home that I adore.
It's beautiful.
Thank you very much. But literally, it's it's an extension of me. But as I said, we live and we learn awful lot. Probably more from my mistakes, more from the challenges that I face, and more from trying to manage people with twice as much experience as me. And that was actually what propelled me to go into so I've got a 360, if you will, background in our industry, because I thought, how on earth can I give somebody instructions when I've never walked in their shoes?
I totally do agree. And I think I'm much more for the job I do, for the work I do. I think I understand more what is the pain and sweat that goes behind. And that's why I'm much more patient and also understanding when somebody or from a different cross-functional team works come up with a problem, because sometimes when we work in silos and we do not think at a company level, it's not R&D and supply chain and marketing and sales. It's like everybody problem is your own problem. And until you solve a problem, you can't finish to the goal line. You cannot get to your goal.
It's having that attitude, isn't it? And that work ethic to want to help each other. It's not YP, it's not your problem. It's our problem, and we must solve it together. And I think empathy and kindness are so, so important and so undervalued, both in society and in our working world. If you can understand and have immediate empathy for what somebody else is doing, then you'll understand the question that they're asking you. And hopefully you'll understand how to help them. And I always say to people, please don't ever fear me. There's never a wrong answer. And there's never a wrong
That's very wonderful. That's
But
definitely wonderful.
True. And sometimes you can come across curt. And I think I probably did in my younger years. So as I got older, I have embraced, my femininity and my softer side. And more importantly, people, and taking the time to understand and value what's going through their mind, their busy day, how long it's taken them to travel to get to see me and give up their time, and what they need. And I think if you do that, you're halfway there. 50% of anything in life is understanding who you're with or what you're doing.
Well, that's wonderfully said. So, all my audience out there, I am having this wonderful conversation with Sarah. Thank you so much for listening in. And I'm hoping you have enjoyed today's conversation. So, for all the girls out there and the women out there, be the best version of you, be bold, be beautiful, and never fear. So, thank you for watching another wonderful episode of Inky with Rinki, Beyond the Boardroom series, where we simplified beauty. And that's it for today. See you in the next episode. And until then, be beautiful and be bold. Thank you.